2025 is shaping up to be a banner year for new coasters worldwide, including Qiddiya in Saudi Arabia and Epic Universe in Orlando. Multiple new parks are opening, on top of an already massive collection of new rides. This includes a tsunami of centerpiece attractions located all over the world. Here's my guess on what the top 20 best coasters will be opening next year. Now, a couple of quick notes before we begin. Firstly, any and all of the coasters here are listed in RCDB. If anything you're thinking of is missing, there's a good chance it either just didn't make the cut, or it's simply not on the site. Secondly, I don't have any family coasters on this list. There are several good ones opening next year, but there are just so many thrill rides I don't really have a need to include any. And yes, I do have a few cheap inclusions on this list. Alright, let's begin. Number 20 is Transformers at Seven Yanbu in Saudi Arabia. This is the first ever Axis coaster sold to a park. It's a very experimental model from S&S. To be honest, I'm really not sure if the layout looks like anything special, but the Axis is more about the free swinging anyways. It'll be a centerpiece ride for the Saudi park, and hopefully the first of many Axis coasters sold to parks. I just hope it's more reliable than Steel Curtain. Before we move any further along the list, I just wanted to remind everybody that you may have different opinions from mine, and that's okay, but at the end of the day, only mine is correct. Number 19 is Palindrome at Codaland in Austin, Texas, this being a Gerstlauer Infinity coaster. This coaster is a really unique shuttle layout, crossing over a road multiple times with some awesome looking inversions. Although both this and another coaster at the park have been delayed by multiple years, they're both finally vertical, and they look like great ways to expand the new park. I'm also really happy that we're getting the first ride named for numbers such as 2112, and words such as kayak. Number 18 is Twin Mills Racer at Mattel Action Park in Glendale, Arizona. Although slated for a 2024 opening, it seems very likely this is set to be delayed. This Chance GTX is a second of its kind and first in over a decade. The original, Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom, actually has rave reviews, and this looks to be a more inversion-focused layout. Especially given its likely launch, I'm really excited to see how this version is reviewed, and I'd love to see it spawn a renaissance of Chance coasters across North America. At 17, we have the currently unnamed Bat Clone going to Wonderla Chennai in India. Although it feels cheap talking about a relocation in a new for 2025 list, this is actually a very interesting addition. Bat Clones are notorious for their whippy transitions and intense positive forces, but this is more notable for being India's second B&M. Originally located in Kuwait, this ride may very well end up being the best coaster in its new country. Given its expanding population and economy, this could actually spark a wave of park expansions across the subcontinent. For number 16, we have Rapterra, the brand new launched wing coaster coming to Kings Dominion in Doswell, Virginia. This ride, slated to be the replacement for the fan-favorite Volcano, looks great and is a perfect fit for the park, as they really need a new people magnet coaster. I don't love wing coasters personally, but I cannot deny that this looks like a tremendous addition for the park, and will really help them gain an edge on Busch Garden. At the 15 spot is Wiener Looping, coming to Wiener Pforte in Vienna, Austria. This mock coaster looks like it'll be a beautiful centerpiece to Vienna's iconic park, which also includes Olympia looping for much of the year. This addition gives it a more permanent headliner, and isn't Austria's only inclusion on the list. According to Billy Joel, this one is already waiting for us. Enough with the mediocre music jokes. 14 goes to Fire Runner, the new RMC Raptor headed to Lost Island in Waterloo, Iowa. Lost Island is a relatively new park home to a few coasters and highly themed attractions. However, it's kind of faced these attendance issues so far, and it's really looking to bolster its fan base. Fire Runner isn't going to solve all of its problems, but it will definitely help. This single rail coaster is going to join Napoku Air Coaster and Madugani as the major coasters at the park. Lost Island is hoping the old Iowa saying of, "If you build it, they will come," will hold true. Number 13 is Flash Vertical Velocity, coming to Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. This Vekoma Super Boomerang was originally scheduled to open this year, but should end up being worth the wait. It looks to bring a ton of unique elements, including some awesome looking backward moments for New Jersey's premier park. Backwards hang time is going to be a really fun sensation. 12 is Wrath of Rakshasa. Try saying that 5 times fast, at Six Flags Great America in Gurnee, Illinois. To be blunt, I feel bad putting this B&M dive coaster this low, but this is just a Beyond Stacked year for coasters. Between its Beyond vertical drop, 5 inversions, and unique layout, this looks to be one of the best coasters at its park, and it has a chance of being the best dive coaster out there. For a company that people seem to criticize for being stagnant and boring, B&M has actually been fairly experimental over the past couple years, and this is a hallmark example of how. At number 11 is Spitfire, the intimate swing launch coaster at Six Flags Qiddiya. A modernized version of a coaster like Stealth, this features a magnetized LSM launch, a backward spike, and actually breaks the record for the world's tallest inversion at 239 feet. This is the first of a shocking 4 Qiddiya coasters in the top 11. Breaking into the top 10, we have the unnamed Dueling Raptors at Walibi Holland. Featuring a thrill side, the one I'm specifically talking about here, and a family side, this looks like it could be the best single rail yet, featuring many elements reminiscent of Twisted Colossus at Magic Mountain. If we're counting the 2 sides as separate coasters, this will be the first park with 3 separate RMCs, all providing a very different ride experience. Walibi Holland looks to have the best collection in the Benelux, and this is a huge reason why. Number 9 is the aforementioned second Codalands coaster, Circuit Breaker. I feel like I'm higher on these Vekomas than most are. The tilted drop is an absolutely diabolical gimmick, plus the layouts look insane. It's unclear whether this will actually open this year, but it will be one of the state's best coasters if it does. It's also set to have the first rollover camelback hill in North America, an element which mixes an Immelmann with the traditional hill, kind of similar to Hyperia. It'll be a lot of fun watching Max Verstappen win a race and riding this all in the span of about an hour. Oh, and sorry for that squeaking by the way, that's my stupid office chair. At number 8 is our second tilt coaster, Siren's Curse at Cedar Point. Originally meant for Energylandia, then sent to Six Flags Mexico, this game of hot potato ended up at Cedar Point. As I've said to some friends, it's been passed around like a blunt at a university party. It looks like an upscaled version of Circuit Breaker, with breakneck pacing, a triple down, and 2 low-to-the-ground barrel rolls for good measure. Cedar Point is definitely getting a good one here. 7 brings us Helios, the second Mach Striker coaster ever produced. Coming to Phantasiana in Austria, this replaces Wild Train. Although we don't know much of the layout, I'll assume it's pretty much going to be a downsized version of Voltron at Europa Park. Expect a mix of all forces with multiple launches and perhaps even some great theming elements. Mach has really been at the top of their game over the past few years, and this could end up being the year's sleeper hit. Ranked number 6 is Colossus, a GCI hybrid coaster headed for Qiddiya. Built as a wood track on steel supports, this looks like an elite GCI mixing great airtime and laterals. Despite working with under 100 feet of height and a touch below 3,000 feet of track, this looks to ride kind of similarly to a Twister hypercoaster. It would not stun me at all to hear some people say this ends up being the best coaster in the park. However, a coaster that would surprise me even less to hear about is Iron Rattler, Qiddiya's tilt coaster. Placing at number 5, it's the third tilt in the top 9. This is literally a supersized version of the other 2. Featuring great pacing and 5 inversions, Iron Rattler is set to be Vekoma's first hypercoaster. Of all the Vekomas set to open this year, this looks like it'll be the best. The real question is, will it end up being the best Six Flags coaster named Iron Rattler? Number 4 is what will be a controversial, the most controversial, inclusion on this list. That's Top Thrill 2 at Cedar Point. There's little that can be said about this saga that hasn't been said, but in case you don't know, it only operated for 8 days before closing for the year. It's kind of like the 2023 Aaron Rodgers of roller coasters. Regardless, I've heard rave reviews and I've decided to include it as, for all intents and purposes, it is new for 2025. Personally, I'll expect alterations to the trains and maybe even the top hat. But it really doesn't look anything short of nuts. I really hope Zamperla, the ride's manufacturer, nails the trains this time around because it just looks so good. As of right now, however, the best operating Zamperla, the ride's manufacturer, at Cedar Point remains Wildmouse. Winning bronze is Alpenfury at Canada's Wonderland. I've already spoken in depth about this ride multiple times, but again, I honestly feel like it could be one of the world's best launch coasters. It'll be very whippy and should have doses of hang time, plus inverted air time, breakneck pacing, and laterals for good measure. I love how unique it looks. I'm not sure how many parks can brag about a coaster launching out of a freaking mountain. Sorry, King's Dominion. This could also end up being the breakout piece for Premier Rides, who could expand beyond being a niche launch coaster manufacturer. The second spot is awarded to Starfall. No. Stardust Racers at Epic Universe. The top 5 spots were very hard to rank and could pretty much go in any order. Alas, this ends up at number 2. Stardust is yet another mock inclusion on this list, and it looks pretty much like a launched hypercoaster. Featuring 2 similar though unique sides, this is going to stand at 133 feet with a 62 mile/hour launch. Both sides have a single inversion and loads of airtime. Stardust Racers could be set apart by great theming. Universal has every ability to nail the probable space theme with flying colors. Epic Universe looks like it can be one of the best parks across the globe, and this is going to be a perfect signature attraction. Although it's not included, Minecart Madness, the Donkey Kong themed ride, looks like it could absolutely be one of the best coasters in the world too, for nothing aside from pure novelty. Of course, the number 1 spot is none other than Falcon's Flight, the final Qiddiya coaster on this list. Also the final coaster on this list. Who knew? This absolutely crushes just about every record in the books. Height, speed, length, change in elevation, and more. Featuring a 519-foot drop, nearly 14,000 feet of track, and a speed of a whopping 155 miles an hour, this will perhaps be the most coveted coaster in the world by enthusiasts. Kudos to Intamin for taking a project this ridiculous. Although I'm unsure if it will be even close to being the world's best coaster, its sheer height makes it beyond intriguing, and the 500-foot camelback could very well be the best single element on the planet. There's a very real chance it ends up being somewhat mediocre, but it deserves a spot for nothing other than scale and ambition. This thing probably won't even fit in some countries, but I'd love to plop it down in the Vatican and see what happens. That's the end of the list. 2025 looks like it could be the very best year we've ever had for coasters, despite no ground-up hypercoasters aside from Qiddiya. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe. If you did not, feel free to dislike and leave a hateful comment.